There's no external noise. You've got to be hyper-focused on the task at hand, which is the track in front of you. Trying to become better as a person.
Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award and a place in South Australian Fast Mover Top 10 company. How the hell are you doing it?
Focus on that one thing. So your definition of easy becomes different because we're not micromanaging 60, 70 people with every little decision. They're making these decisions for themselves.
What kind of sicko stuff do you get up to? How did you grow so fast?
I think...
Luke, I live a very different life now than I did when I started Build Clean. And today I want to explore what needs to be done to gain the momentum and what life can offer once that momentum or that wheel is moving. It'd be really great if we can poke at how there is a fallacy around things will get more difficult as the company grows. Both you and I know that things do actually get easier, and it'd be nice to unpack that. And also have a look at what your life is like now versus what your life and routine were like back then as well. And by back then, I mean in the trenches, really getting things moving. We also want to look at or kind of unpack how to make more money. That's effectively what we'd all like to do. And how we can turn some of that money into experiencing the richness of life. Now, I always like to poke a few quotes at people, quotes that I've either heard you say or read that you have posted. Let's kick straight into it. You've been known to hire ahead of you, looking for people with skills you don't possess to advance the company forward. Explain how this works.
Yes, that was a concept we learnt very early on. I think it might have been our third or fourth hire as a company. We hired someone with a skill set far beyond ours. At the time, we were nervous to that because we were thinking, well, all of a sudden we're going to have to tell this guy what to do, but he's so far further advanced. We were paying him more than we were paying ourselves. How's this going to work? But it was through some education that we did, mainly through reading, that sort of said you need to really get these skilled people into your business as early as you can. We did that, and the effects of that were far exceeded what we anticipated they would be. Not only that, as far as the company goes, it also freed up our time because we were able to lean, back then it was the technical work, we were able to lean on this one individual with a lot of this technical stuff that we were previously doing and we previously weren't doing to the level that we wanted to do. It was frustrating for us because we didn't know what we were doing. We weren't doing it efficiently. Yet you get someone in with that skill set, all of a sudden it's being done quicker, it's being done more efficient. They enjoy it because it's in their skill set and it frees us up to do other things that we enjoy and we're better at. So I think that was a learning early on that we go, okay, this is anything that is outside of our skill set or gets to a point where it warrants a full-time role or part-time role or outsourcing, even leaning on a VA or external bookkeepers or whatever that might be. Let's do that. Let's pull the trigger effectively a little bit ahead of time to enable us to not burn out and be freed up to focus on the next level, I suppose, of what's the saying? Delegate and elevate?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, which was essentially what we tried to do from an early stage.
What was your job role and your business partner, Jared? Mm-hmm. What were your job roles then, and then what was the role that you hired?
Yep. So then we were doing everything, as you do, early stages, just in a partnership. I think we might have had one real young guy with us or whatever.
So you're still on site, still on the tools?
Still on tools, literally doing the day-to-day. Jared founded the business and then I came into it, so we were still fumbling through that. And then we started getting an inkling into the commercial space, and Jared, through the way he does, he's very good with people, had someone in mind for a certain role that might break us into that commercial sphere a bit deeper. And sure enough, this guy took the bait that Jared was offering, and that broke us into that, and he just ran with it. And we were like, wow, if it's not reliant on us, all of a sudden we were breaking into clients and spaces that we didn't even know about based on the skill set that this guy had, and we were doing work that we couldn't comprehend. It's like, okay, this is how a business is meant to operate. You lean on other people as opposed to yourself. It's very hard. It was a tough concept to get our head around as sole traders or a partnership back then. But once we learnt from that, away you go. You can you do that across all the sorts of roles, not just the technical roles within the business, but everything else that comes with it as well.
Okay. You still do that now?
Absolutely.
Cool.
So For example, like early days, you do all your marketing and stuff yourself, and then you get to a point where we're doing it to a reasonable level, but our time's probably better off spent in other areas. So we get someone in, or we actually engaged an external marketer for a while, and then we thought, well, why not get someone in-house? It probably warrants a full-time role now, and then we can really expose them to the branding that we want to achieve. And since we've done that, it's grown hugely to a point where we've just recently added a second person into that marketing team, I suppose, to really expand on what we've created with the branding and that sort of thing. So across business, like we've got an in-house mechanic now for all time, because I used to fumble around doing that. Again, I was okay at it, but I was stuffing it up, wasn't doing it efficiently. Let's get a qualified mechanic that actually knows what they're doing, and let's lean on them. Admin, bookkeeping, all the facets that go with business. As the business expands, our Jared and my job roles have become more and more and more focused into much more specific tasks, as opposed to you wear 10, 12, 15 hats when you're a sole trader, aren't you? Doing literally everything across the board, whereas now we're getting more and more focused into our
highest and best use.
Yes, best fit.
You could say.
Which generally your best fit is something you're good at and you enjoy doing. Probably becomes, because you are good at it, you do enjoy doing it. So as owners of your own company, you'd be foolish to not do that, because that's the benefit of owning your own company. You get that freedom to be able to curate the role that you desire. So lean into that.
Yeah, it gives yourself a bit of leverage as well. Puts you doing the things you do most efficiently at the best use for the most amount of time.
Yep.
Give your team the power and authority to complete their role. What do you mean by that?
So it's one thing to have the responsibility to do a task. It's another thing to have the authority to execute a task that may not necessarily have a specific process or a specific whatever SOP behind it. So what we speak to there is, and it's something we're still working on, we certainly haven't nailed this, is giving the team authority to make a decision. If it aligns with best practice, it aligns with the company's values, and it aligns with the general feeling of the brand that we're trying to portray, go ahead and make the decision. 9 times out of 10, the judgment that you see in that position will be warranted. You don't need to run to your superior or something for something that you're going to nail 9 times out of 10, because you can refer back to. And even with the ones that you make the mistake, if you can prove that, hey, this is what we've done in the past, this is what I thought was best practice, these are our values, and this decision fit with that, we're not going to rip you for it. That's fair enough. You've used sound logic for that. We make mistakes. Jared and I make mistakes probably more than 9 times out of 10. But that's just, at least if you've got that authority, and then when you do make the decisions and the decision comes off and it's, there's success from that, it builds a positive feedback loop that, okay, and then it empowers our staff that they can continue to do that.
And they can trust their own decisions and back themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it allows us to step back as well, because we're not micromanaging 60, 70 people with every little decision. They're making these decisions for themselves for the greater good of the company. It also, I think, gets people thinking company first as opposed to individual first. They're not thinking, what if I make the wrong decision? My job's on the line. They're thinking, this is the best decision for the company. Mm-hmm. Let's remove a little bit of emotion from it. Let's remove the politics from it and look at it from a bigger picture point of view. Then I think as well, when we have to make decisions as directors, they're also seeing the logic behind the decisions we make. It's not just, we're taking away a perk or something. This is the logic behind this decision. This is why it's better for the greater good, like the company itself, the group in itself, not just, we don't like that, we want to save some money here or there. This is the reason why.
It also probably stops people from calling you guys so much.
Correct.
We've always thought about like tier 1 problems, tier 2 problems, tier 3 problems. If someone falls off a roof, it's a tier 1 problem. I want to know.
Correct.
If someone got a minor scratch, tripped over an extension cord or what have you, stubbed their toe, I don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
And trying to frame things in a way where if it's going to sink the company, we definitely need to know as soon as possible. Correct. But if this is could be a minor expense if it goes bad, go for it. Take the punt on it, or use your best decision-making power.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think if you think back to when you were at an employee level, you'll generally find that you enjoy having that authority to make those decisions, and you elevate yourself because of that. And if you don't elevate yourself because of it, well, okay, that's fine. You probably sit in a entry level position within the company. But if you're, at least then as well, because we give entry level guys that power early on, if they do rise to the challenge, it gives them a pathway to progress within the company as well, because we can see that trajectory much quicker than what we would if they were just in autopilot mode.
That's it. From a retention level, or from a like leadership pathways level, you can see the guys, because they're the ones that don't ask questions. They just provide solutions.
Correct.
Nice. This is a personal question, because we both have ridden a few times together. We've actually entered some endurance motocross races together. I wouldn't call it motocross from my end. Hobbyist. When you put on your helmet, you can't be focused on work, only the road ahead, or you'll come unstuck. Why is this important?
I think when you're doing, and it's not necessarily motorbike riding, it could be different things for different people, but I find it almost like a form of meditation. You put your helmet on, whether that's a visual representation or something as well, that there's no external noise. You've got to be hyper-focused on the task at hand, which is the track in front of you. Because if you're not hyper-focused on that, you're increasing your risk of crashing and severely hurting yourself. So you have to tune out everything else around you. And I struggle a bit with, all business owners would be the same, I'd say. At certain times, you've got 10 different things on the go that's stealing your attention. It's hard to park those ideas and those thoughts sometimes. So I think through motocross, and probably cricket is the same as well. When you're batting, again, you've got a helmet on. That must be why I've probably got this irrational love for these sports, is the fact that you can stick your helmet on, tune out to everything that's been going on during the week, during the month, during the year, and just focus on that one thing, whether it be the track in front of you in the motocross sense, or the ball coming at you at 100 k's an hour in the cricket sense.
I think that's it's definitely what drew me to motorbike riding, as much as I've done it since I was a kid, something that pulls me back to it. I started jiu-jitsu recently as well, and it's very hard to think about work while somebody's trying to kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a great escape a couple times a week, because obviously it's quite cumbersome to go out riding, and it's a full day expedition, but you can go to any martial arts for that matter, jump in for an hour, have someone try and beat the shit out of you. Yeah. It's very, very hard to think about the operational elements of the company when somebody is actually trying to end your life.
Exactly.
In a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Mate, I want to poke around at the inner workings of you. Mm-hmm. So I use this term lifestyle empire. It's about how cash moves from our earned income to our passive income, and also how we divvy up or give ourselves permission to enjoy some experiences. Tell me about your lifestyle empire.
So I always had a thing when I was younger. I didn't want to work for wages basically my whole life. I didn't know how that was going to look when I was younger, but I just thought if I sort of understood the concept of putting money away and having a nest egg there enough that you can retire or be financially free, etc. So I sort of got that concept from an early age. So I understood that investments was probably going to be the way I was going to get there, and to generate enough cash to have these investments is probably the most potential was through business. I was fortunate that the business itself, the current business, happened to fall in my lap, very fortunately through a good friend of mine. Obviously, Jared founded the business, and then I just happened to be working with him, and we formed the partnership, went from there. That's a whole other story in itself. But through business, I guess, knowing that is the generator of income to then park that in other areas. The only issue with it is it's obviously very front loaded. Like, you've got to get the business working to a point where it is spinning off cash essentially to be able to do that. So that takes a lot of work up front, and a lot of work generally if you're coming straight out of school and into business through your 20s, which is what you probably consider the best time of your life, isn't it? You're young, you're fit, you're healthy.
The party years.
The party years. So the last thing you want to be doing is working 6-7 days a week and flogging yourself to try and do that. So that's where it takes, I think, incredible discipline and foresight, I suppose, to put yourself in that situation, especially when all your mates are out having a great time. So trying to find a bit of a balance there without burning yourself out, but also knowing that the longer term play is that you're front loading your working life to set yourself up for life into the future. That said, my mentality has changed a bit on that recently. I read a great book. I don't know if you've read it or not. Die with Zero.
Oh yeah,
good book. Would recommend. Essentially about making sure you don't miss your youth and miss out on doing things just because you're trying to squirrel everything away for an early retirement or something like that. Like, you're not going to enjoy the Amalfi Coast or something like that as much, in your 70s as probably what you are in your late 20s, early 30s. Or you're not going to be able to jump out of a plane. I don't know, you might be able to at 80, but you may as well do it at 30 and enjoy those sort of things. Young family, for example, like your kids and that, and not missing out on that period just because you're slaving away 12, 14 hours a day. So our situation with Jared's obviously got a young family, so we're trying to say, well, we're, as much as we're a similar age, we're at different stages of our lives. He's wanting to spend time with his kids. I'm wanting to do a bit of travel. Let's make sure we don't miss these years to be able to do that sort of thing. So,
and then you're not framing your time or your schedule in like having a business partner, having to do exactly the same clock in, clock out times. You're more looking at things on a larger horizon of Jared may work shorter days, but more of them over the space of the year. And then because you've recently done your Euro trip, and we'll poke on those in a moment, you're more getting a larger amount of time, or front loading, as you've said, your time in at work, getting more done so that you then have consecutive days to be able to travel or do whatever, go on rickshaws in India.
Correct. And that's something that we've battled with as well between us. One is I don't know what the correct term is for it, but the resentment you get, I suppose, from the guys on the ground when you're working out of an office. That was one thing. And then to them be able to work remotely from home, or then to be able to do this on a weekday, there's a bit of resentment there. So that's one thing you've got to overcome. The other one is the balance between Jared and myself, and feeling guilty for each other because I'm here doing this while he's working, or he's in at work at 6:30 in the morning while I'm off doing something else. Like there's that balance there. But I think we're both incredibly respectful of each other's time and each other's wants and how we both play, and that we are getting better at playing to our strengths and how we best work for the greater good of the business. Like that's the end goal, is that being successful. So how that looks from a strict time point of view can vary person to person. And we're trying to maybe look at rolling that through the company as well, with being a bit more outcome focused as opposed to time focused.
And particularly with the guys who are in the office, it's very hard for this to relate through to everybody, but particularly guys in the office, you can get a little bit more objective-based or goal-based of like, if I achieve my output or, my desired tasks in 1.5 days instead of 5, then by rights, you can do whatever you want with that. It's just guys that like yourself and myself will finish 5 days worth of work in 1.5 and then add another 5 days worth of work. Yeah. And in 3 days, you would have done 10.
Yeah, and vice versa as well. It can go the other way where you expect, I'm shocker for external noise. I just can't, we've got a group office environment and I just can't get anything done there. It's great for collaboration and stuff, but that's not where my sort of sphere of work sits.
The interruption's too high.
So I need to remove myself from that situation and plonk myself in front of a desk at home with no external noise to be able to punch out heaps of work. But I've got better with batching my time to a point where it used to be I'd rock up to work, and even up till recently, I'd rock up to work and just want to finish the conversation so I can get on with the next task. Whereas now I'm much more comfortable with parking tasks for certain periods of time, having that conversation, extrapolating what needs to be done, again, parking whatever needs to be done to a certain time and then actioning it there, which it gets easier to do with practice. But at the time I was like, I just need to get these things done and get them out of my head and done. But again, it's just identifying your working styles and playing to those strengths.
I'm going to get to your routines because I know that you're quite rigid or well structured in those. But first, how did you grow so fast?
I think Jared developed a good product in the service offering he had, and there was demand for that. So we were probably a bit naive as to what would happen, and we just thought, well, we've got to service these clients. These people want the work done. We need to make it happen. So let's get people on. We were pretty aggressive with that. Whether or not it was the right thing to do is up for debate, but we made it work. And I think through that blitz scaling methodology, we came out the other side a bit quicker than what we otherwise would have, where I feel like a lot of businesses go through that. And I'm generally speaking towards trade-based businesses or service-based businesses. They go through that sort of early phase. You get 1 or 2 guys, it's all hunky-dory. Then you go through that phase of sort of 8 to, 20, 25 people, where you're still doing everything. You're still trying to be a technician. You're still trying to oversee the business. It's growing a bit quick
like the wheels are falling off.
Exactly. But then once you get through that phase and you've got a level of management there, all of a sudden you can start delegating a lot of these tasks and all this sort of stuff. And then it almost becomes easier, or it does become easier. And then from there, I should rephrase that. Whether or not it becomes easier or you become a bit more accustomed to how things should run is probably a split between those. So your definition of easy becomes different, probably, would be a better way to put it. But you've got people that you can lean on, and good people you can lean on, and people that are able to shield you a bit from things that are happening, like we were talking about them before, when someone nicks themselves or something. You've got people to deal with that situation. You're the one copying the phone call.
And there's frameworks and hierarchies in place in order to not let every decision have to come through you guys.
Yep.
Everybody asks this question. I'm assuming just because the vast majority of our time is spent in trades and services, and that's where our business knowledge or experience comes in. But in that area, in that field, everybody says, I can't find the right guys. How do you find the right guys?
Good question. That's something we've focused heavily on, especially with our branding. We focus more so on the culture of the workplace, a little bit on what we do, but more so how we go about it and why, and the background behind it, and trying to create a culture and a workplace in which people want to come and work for us. That's want to come and work with us.
Nice rephrase.
Yes.
Good
correct.
pickup.
Yep. Because we feel like if we can create a workplace that people want to come and work at, the knock-on effect of that is they're generally going to be happier at work. They're going to produce better outcomes. They're going to have better interactions with clients because they're operating at a happier, more satisfied, sustainable level. Not only that in the workplace, it also transfers into their home life, where they're going to be better people at home. They're going to be better fathers, better mothers, better kids, better grandkids, whatever it might be. And then it perpetuates. That then gets dragged into the workplace. How many times you rock into work or somewhere and someone's had a bad night with their family or whatever, and they drag that mood into the workplace. Vice versa, they have a horrible day at work, they drag that mood back to their family life, and that perpetuates. Humans are generally tend towards the negative, so the negative feedback loop goes around and around, whatever. Whereas if we can curate a positive atmosphere, and then it feeds itself as well, I think the referral that gets within the community as well enables people to see, they see it on socials, they hear it from other people, they hear it from clients that, this must be a great place to work. Let's jump on board. And we're getting more and more inquiries. People will take a pay cut, people will move geographically, people will change role, people will change industry to come and work with us because they've heard that it's a great place to work. So that's huge for us, and that's what has enabled us to attract great people and retain great people as well.
So it's not hourly rate, it's not free haircuts, it's not free gym memberships, it's not any of those cute perks.
No.
It's building a real business that people want to be a part of.
Yeah, and it's a slower burn. I was thinking about it before. Someone could come into our business and basically slam it and cut out all the unnecessary costs and all the nice to haves and all that sort of stuff, and increase bottom line quite substantially. But that's not how we want to run the business. We want it to be a sustainable thing where we're not reliant on a churn and burn of staff. We're having people we want people to achieve long service leave. We want people to achieve double long service leave. We want people to be there till they retire. And we've had people openly say that to us. And that's a very satisfying thing, because the business is going to be sufficient for a long, long period if you've got good people working with you for a long time. And it takes the stress off us as well, because we're not having to pick up the slack when a key person leaves the business because they've got a better offer elsewhere, or they're just sick of dealing with us and they want a better opportunity somewhere else. So.
Or your performance reviews come down to gimme. I want more.
Yeah, I mean, naturally there's going to be a bit of that, and we try our best to make that work. in terms of pay rates and stuff like that. But there's some things you just cannot compete with. And we've lost people to much higher offers elsewhere, and that's part of it. But trying to decouple performance with pay increases is one thing for sure.
2 years ago, we were sitting on the back of your ute. We'd just finished riding. We're up at Nildotty in the Riverland here in Adelaide, or just out of Adelaide. And we were talking about how you were going to expand AHLG and talking about whether there's some like economies of scale that can be had by getting a yard and stocking heaps of your own equipment, heaps of your own materials and supplies. And now recently I've seen that you've acquired another company. Talk me through it.
Yes, so obviously the expansion possibilities, I suppose, with business is generally geographical. You think you go, big area, interstate, overseas, whatever it might be. The other one we discussed was vertical integration. So how can we plug in the supply chain, I suppose, of AHLG and get a slice of that? And one that always came to mind was a bulk landscape supplies yard, purely because we use a lot of it. It's a relatively simplistic business, and it's just a natural plug. We were fortunate enough that our local suppliers yard, that's probably our main supplier for AHLG, approached us earlier this year and said, we're looking to sell, would you be interested? And then we obviously went back and forth with some negotiation there and come to an agreement to acquire that. So we took that over as of start of this month. It's been a great plug-in. The existing business, the bones are quite good. Small family business, they've been operating for 3 years, literally started from scratch. And that they've built it up to a really good client base, sticky client base, through just quality service and just being good people, which plugs in naturally to what we want our business to be about. So it is a good fit there. So we're really early doors into that at the moment, but so far so good, and it's exciting as well.
Cool. So the expansion strategy there was not do more of the same service to more people. It was continue doing that and then add in secondary service or a secondary option to potentially the same and different clientele.
Yeah.
Because you bring it in from a retail perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just a straight plug in to the existing business. I guess as we've progressed through the business journey, Jared and myself, we've fallen more in love with business as opposed to a specific industry or the technical, the horticulture that we first started with, or the landscape construction that we then went into. And now the retail aspect, I suppose, we're less interested in the specific industries. We're more interested in business as it in general. So I guess in the future, we might look to apply it to different other industries. There's no horizons, I suppose, that the skill sets are generally transferable to other industries. Obviously, that we need the technical skills from, as we were saying before, those people that are better in those aspects, and they're going to be key in certain parts of different businesses. But overall, the skills transfer across quite well.
So you've really gone from pushing a lawnmower to printing P&Ls.
Yeah.
That's really where we're at the moment, isn't it?
I'm a guru on Excel now. Yeah.
You're a freak of the sheets.
Yeah. It's taken a while, but we've got there. Yeah.
I want to know, what was your routine like when you were starting out? When you were pushing the mower, when you were driving the utes, what was it like?
I'd say it would be very typical of a young male, no real good set routine. You dabble in a bit of sport and fitness and whatnot. You also have your social life as well. Work in between. There was no clear-cut routine. But then as we did a lot of reading, especially those first early years, Jared and I would sort of read books or listen to books actually at the time, because we were on the tools all day, every day with earmuffs on. So we just consumed bulk content basically. And then at the end of the day, we'd ring each other on the way home and discuss what we'd learned through the day and how we can apply that to our business. Then we go and apply it, or not only our business, but our personal lives. We'd go and apply it, report back, we got some good results. Okay, maybe there's a bit of gumption to what we're reading. Lisa,
so you're actually, through that period, you weren't just smashing podcast after podcast, listening to Joe Rogan and watching him shoot arrows at the Cybertruck. You're actually you were taking a more methodical approach to, we're actually going to learn something. We're going to pick a topic or a source that we need to learn, listen to it, consume it, digest it, regurgitate it to each other, and then apply it.
Correct. Yeah. And we fell in love with that self-development genre, basically. We had a few things recommended to us, and then we listened to them, and you just see the outcomes. Okay, let's implement this. It compounds. So it's you look at it now, and we've both got reasonable routines and things in place to try and operate at a higher level. It's been the culmination of 10, 15 years of iterations and improvements and learnings and all that sort of stuff. Had you have told me then, do this, you wouldn't do it, because it's just a lot to implement and you just can't see the benefit from it straight away. But over time, you iterate it and develop it from there. The other one, I suppose, on that was we made a point, I can't remember, it was, again, early on, of reaching out to people, whether it be business owners or what we considered successful people, and just picking their brain on different things and what works for them. And of all that information, we pull from that what applies or resonates with us, and then, again, go and implement it and see if we can get the results from that.
That's how we met. First, wasn't it?
Literally, yeah.
We went back to back on the same award year after year, and then you and Jared reached out and came down to our office, and I think you were intending for it to be a lot more educational for your end, and you guys ended up teaching us a few things.
But that's the thing, though. It works both ways. So we walked away with it thinking, how good was that? You guys walked away with it thinking, how good was that as well?
We walked away thinking that we need to pull our fucking finger out now, which was great because it was we really benefited from and for context here, I've got a business partner as well in Build Clean. We didn't understand how to segment our roles like you guys had. Like, you guys are very big on the visionary integrator, understanding whose skills are better where, and also drawing a very clear-cut line in those kind of job descriptions, if I may.
Yes.
So that was really helpful for us. And we're talking early days.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
What's your routine like now?
Good, but can always be improved.
Are you the kind of man that stands in his backyard earthing with his rectum to the sun? Are you blue light blocking glasses in the evening? Do you submerge yourself in freezing cold water? What kind of sicko stuff do you get up to?
Yeah, not quite to that extreme. But the thing is, there's a lot of, I don't know, science, pseudoscience, whatever it is, of these things. I think it's just finding what works.
Bro science.
What works for you.
It has to be bro science.
Just find what works for you. I think the biggest thing for me was keeping a journal and just recording, okay, I've done this for X amount of time. What differences have I noted? And generally it's either physical in your body or mental, and you can get pretty clear on the differences it makes. I found, getting my sleep optimized was a huge thing, and then that allowed me to perform slightly higher. Yeah, tracking a lot of metrics. I've got a little bit less fanatical with that. I am a super analytical brain, so I tend to get paralysis by over-analysis if I go too deep in the weeds with all that sort of stuff. So now I go a bit more just on feel, which seems to work quite well. Again, it's just iterating these things that work for you. So if sunning yourself in awkward positions happens to work for you, props to you. That's happy days. But find what works for you and keep, I guess, never rest on what works. Keep trying to iterate. That is probably the key thing.
I sit on the same mentality for the whole human optimization component. Is like, and very similar. I'll go to the extreme on things, and then I'll wind it back, and then work out what fits the routine nicely and normally, and is simple enough to be able to do consistently. I want to poke on the journaling component because it can sound really airy-fairy.
Yeah.
It can sit in the buzzwords of like culture and leadership and innovation. But journaling as a tactic, I do it. My business partners all do it. Obviously, you said that you do it as well. Can you share with us the framework for which you sit down in front of a pen and paper or computer and start getting your thoughts out? Because it can be very daunting for someone to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm not going to get stuck into journaling. And then for them to then break that barrier down and then want to sit in front of a piece of paper and go, what the fuck do I actually put down?
Yeah.
What's your framework?
It was literally, I remember my first entry was, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to go with it. I do it on a computer, locked document, because I'm one of those people, I just don't want anyone to see it, because it should be honest. I just brain dump. Whatever I'm thinking, yada, yada, Then I got to a point where I was prompting myself with certain questions, or I'd plug in what I was grateful for the day. You iterate it and find things that work for you. I'm not a strict person that I won't do it every day. Probably 3 to 4 times a week, like most of my other little bits I do. That I've found that to be a consistent something that I can adapt and I can apply to my everyday life, because life gets in the way of a lot of things. So I think that's probably been the consistent piece across all trialing all these other things. Then you can refer back to it. Each month I do a review, assess what's happening, a forecast for the next month, do a quarterly review, yearly review, and just go back through and reread where you've been, and you go, oh yeah, I was feeling like this through this period, and this is what was happening. And you get each day that you put an entry in, you're not necessarily getting the big picture view, but when you zoom out and look at the quarter or the 6 months or the season, whatever it might be, you get a better understanding of where you're at in that individual moment in time, and you can start piecing it all together a bit easier.
Operationalize it for me. Do you have actual prompts?
No, but I have just started doing it. Yeah, so I went through a phase where I did a bit of I had a basically self-improvement coach, I suppose you could say, where they were sort of giving me some prompts and stuff and doing some work on that. I was like, that helps a bit, because it's not just the same stuff, and I was digging a bit deeper into certain areas.
Yep.
So now I don't know if it's a business thing or a business idea that maybe you can run with, but I'd love to get an email every day or whatever frequency I want set up that lands in my inbox with a journal prompt. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but if it's not,
I was listening to a thing only recently.
But
I run prompts as well. I've run the same prompts, very similar prompts for probably a couple of years now.
Yeah.
In the same scenario, my mentor at the time, was still current mentor, got me onto this set of prompts as a bullshit detector.
You're right.
But to get the automated component, I heard recently that people have started to have a GPT chat.
I can imagine, yeah.
To prompt their, provide it with the prompts, and then say daily, give me the list,
Yep.
and then fact check it or try and use it as a bullshit detector to probe further.
Yep.
Which I think would be an interesting exercise. However, I'm not willing to be vulnerable and open with an open source piece of information. I'm not at that stage yet.
Yeah.
I think I'll save that for a psych session.
Correct.
How do you manage, because you've got 60 odd staff, you've acquired another company, you've got a property portfolio that's growing as well. How do you manage all of that and still have time to ride on the back of or ride a rickshaw with the boys, and also do a Euro tour and spend time in the Whitsundays? How the hell are you doing it?
Like we touched on before, leaning on good people. I think we're incredibly fortunate with the business that we've built, is that we have great people that not only do their job, but they bleed for the badge. We kind of align ourselves with a sporting team where you become quite passionate and a supporter of your team, and you belong to that team. So having people like that we can lean on, that will literally jump on grenades for you to allow you to do these things.
To let you go on a party tour on India.
We won't call it a party tour.
Was Pakistan, India? Where did you go?
The Sri Lankan one.
Sri Lanka,
yes.
Excellent.
Did Sri Lanka, which was fantastic. And so that was the other thing, is as much as we're in partnership, Jared and I were, in recent years, have been able to build up time where we're both removed from the business at the same time.
Because you were on that together, weren't you, with a couple of mates?
Correct.
Yep.
And this winter just gone, Australian winter, I was fortunate enough to go to the UK for 4.5 months and live over there for that period. And Jared had a trip planned as well. So we were both overseas for a month while the business ran, and actually performed really well while we were away, because people step up to that level. They want to take on that responsibility. Then when we come back, people are already doing these tasks that we were doing, and now we can sort of elevate ourselves to the next level as well, and keep furthering ourselves in the business as such. And because we're doing that, everyone around us is doing the same.
Help me understand the operating model that goes behind it, because we've got the people, we've got the trust, the authority, and the culture, so people can make their own decisions for themselves. But how does information get fed to you whilst you are abroad?
So I was still working whilst abroad, so I was still tapped in basically via a laptop. So anything that could happen via a laptop, Zoom calls, emails, whatever, phone calls. It was all still relative, but I guess because you're not there in the weeds, so to speak, in the trenches, a lot of the information, if the information doesn't need to get to you because there's friction in that process, only the most important information does. So I took a lot of learnings of that, and I realised that a lot of the things I was doing day to day, I could either delegate, or I could delete, or I could defer, or do all these sort of things to then allow myself to focus on things that I'd basically been putting off for a long period. In that first month I was overseas, I got things done that I had on my to-do list for 6 months because I didn't have the distractions, and I was able to get into it without those other smaller tasks clouding my judgment or my time.
So you didn't just take off, leave the laptop at home, and kiss the business goodbye? Not quite.
I think the thing is when you enjoy it as well. So what I found out of doing that was I quite like working in sort of micro bursts, like 90-minute stints, go and do something, 90-minute stint, go and do something, to the point where now, during my week, I like to do that, particularly in the morning. I've found sort of between 9 and 11 a.m. is sort of that's where I'm running at my absolute best level. So I'll happily do that on a weekend, a Saturday or Sunday. I'll punch out 90 minutes of work. I enjoy that, and I allow myself a little bit of time during the week to do something else. So I think we've had the freedom to be able to structure our weeks a bit better. Jared's much more people focused in the business, where he's there, first thing in the morning, meeting the guys and saying good day, and he's very good at extracting information from people. So that's key to his role. Fortunately, mine is much more the back end and the in the nuts and bolts of a spreadsheet and stuff, where I can do that remotely. So incredibly fortunate to be able to do that.
What are you learning at the moment?
Oh, so much. I think having a curious mind and curiosity is probably one of my values. So I love learning anything. Unfortunately, I get myself into the weeds on a YouTube video on how to do something obscure and then want to find out the nth degree of how to go about it. But I think for me personally, I'm learning a lot more about accountability through work and how to apply it and hold people to account. It's not something I'm particularly good at nor enjoy doing. So trying to get better with that. Delegation is another one. Time management, stress management, trying to operate on a sustainable level for a longer period. I feel like as the business grows, we become much more responsible, much more, like you've got 60, 70 people dependent on your stability as a human.
It's our duty, it's our obligation to provide.
That's probably a better way of putting it. It's an obligation. So you feel obliged to operate at a level in which our staff have that sustainability and stability in their own lives as well. So trying to become better as a person in that frame, again, for the knock-on effects of that. So it's a bit of a responsibility aspect.
How do you define success?
Good question. I think it changes over time. If you asked me that 10 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer to what I have now, and I think in 10 years' time I'll give a different answer again. But I think success for me at the moment is more so a feeling. I've talked before about I used to get deep into analysis of things and paralysis by analysis, whereas now I think I define myself and my success much more on how I'm feeling at any one point in time. I think the feeling comes from... So I've been thinking about this since you've asked this in a bit more detail. So I feel like your mindset and the way you think about things and how you're feeling, I thought that might be secondary to outcomes. So, whatever happens is happening at work, whatever's happening in your personal life, that's what dictates your feeling. Whereas I'm starting to maybe come to the realization that you can enhance your own feeling but through your own mental capacity and thinking, the power of the mind, which then influences what's happening day to day. So I'm trying to get into the frame of thinking positively and being a bit more self-aware and self-conscious on being at this level, and then the outcomes of things I do, the work, the personal life, the sport, the recreation, whatever you might be doing, hopefully that elevates as opposed to the other way around, rather than letting situations dictate your mood, let your mood dictate situations. I haven't quite.
So you're not valuing you're not taking your personal value from P&L, from numbers, from performance.
Yeah,
it's more potentially that's something like, how much have you got left in the tank?
It's more, can I be a better person that the inputs I'm putting into that business result in a better P&L? It's not the P&L is going to dictate my output for the next 12 months.
You're trying to use it as a leading measure as opposed to a lagging.
Yeah. Nice. That's a better way to put it. I haven't quite nailed the philosophies of how that all works, but come back to it in 6 months and we might be able to articulate that method a bit better, but we'll get there.
Let's do it. Luke Timmons, I appreciate you, mate. Thank you.